Sending your audience home happy is, at its core, what every film should hope to achieve, as by doing this they promote positive conversations, elicit that feeling of joy that is buried within all of us, deep down in the case of us British, and stay in the mind long after viewing. And it doesn't always need to be super cheesy happy endings, and can indeed be sad or distressing endings that leave you feeling satisfied. But today, we are going to focus on these happily ever afters and ask the question, were they? After all, time and time again, cinematic output has provided us with examples where the heroes have won and the dawn is sure rising on a new day, but what about all of the leftover cleanup? Or, as in the case here, what about their very livelihoods going forward? Well, let's have a chat, as I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 movie heroes you didn't realise probably died horrible deaths. Number 10, Batman and Blake, and everyone else in Gotham, The Dark Knight Rises. The end of Christopher Nolan's trilogy sees Bruce Wayne retired, Alfred free of his destructive worries about failing his master, and Gotham left in the apparently capable hands of John Blake. And no, he's not Robin. And here the implication is that Gotham, Wayne, Alfred, and Blake have all earned a happy ending that frees them from the pain that the city caused. However, let's just remember for a minute that we've just seen a decaying neutron bomb explode not 10 miles away from Gotham. I mean, that's going to have some side effects, right? In fact, the city is directly within the fallout zone, meaning a catastrophic dystopian future of radiation poisoning, which will make their gratefulness at not being blown up pretty short-lived. And then there's Batman himself, who must have been even closer to the explosion, and I know what, if we do accept that he somehow avoided being blasted into smithereens, would he not have taken a serious dose of radiation, and not the fun type that turns you into a real-life superhero? So in other words, Talia won in the end anyway. Number 9, Alice, Closer. Closer is a particularly nasty little movie where pretty much nobody is likable, everyone cheats on each other like only good-looking people who dine on betrayal can, and a air quotes happy ending looks pretty unlikely for everyone. But in Alice, we do get an idea of hope for a better future as she escapes her abusive, controlling relationship, which was becoming no more than a cycle of nastiness, and strides out alone into New York. But hang on a second, Closer is based on a play, which it does remain very close to, but there is one notable exception in the film. Alice is hit by a car in the opening, but in the play, that happens at the end, and her ex Dan reveals that she was killed and he has to go on and identify her body. Oh, that's pretty cheery. So how does that affect the film if the adaptation was different? Well, it wasn't entirely, because rather ominously, the final shot of the film sees Alice crossing a road in New York and a red "Don't Walk" sign is lit up, suggesting that she too was hit by a car off screen. Number 8, GORDIE LACHANCE, Stand By Me. Stand By Me's end sees GORDIE LACHANCE realise his destiny to cast off the shadow of his more successful brother, as well as that of his best friend Chris, who is cooler by some distance, and become a bit of a badass in his own right. And he does this by standing up to Ace and his gang. This is a big deal, given that GORDIE has basically been dragged through the mud by bullies, including his emotionally abusive parents, since the death of his brother. It's not just Ace that he calls a cheap dime store hood, it is everyone who's ever made him feel lesser than he is. Roll credits, hero status earned. But wait a minute. You need to remember who Ace is. He's got no problem carrying knives around and threatens to kill Chris earlier in the film, and when GORDIE pulls a gun on him, he tells him, "We're not going to forget this if that's what you're thinking. This is big time, baby." So are we just supposed to accept that he forgot instead? Well, who can say? And I know what you're probably commenting right now. "Oh, Jules, we see GORDIE all grown up at the end, you big, beautiful, bold eagle of a man." But I ask you this, is that the end of the story? And based on the path that Ace was on, you might assume that he never left the town that he grew up in. So what's to say that he didn't see GORDIE all grown up and completely unsuspecting, which is a perfect time to enact his revenge. Put 2 and 2 together, and Stand By Me turns into, well, Last Man Standing. Number 7, Michelle, 10 Cloverfield Lane. After escaping the ultra-secure home of Howard, Michelle jumps from the pan into the fire when she's attacked by a creepy alien ship, and she looks done for. However, we have to remember that she is far too feisty to be taken out so easily, and instead uses the power of Molotovs and car to take down the alien. Good times all around, right? Well, that alien wasn't alone, nor is the battle over by any stretch. When she escapes, she's given the choice to flee to Baton Rouge for safety or join the resistance fight in Houston. She chooses the latter and heads in the same direction as some big alien ships. But look at the size of the enemy she's facing. I hate to be a downer on the situation, but the aliens, well, they're probably going to win because, well, they kind of already have. And I mean, just look at the rest of the connected film timeline. The Cloverfield paradox seems to imply a global invasion and peril are imminent and inevitable. And Michelle getting lucky with one unexpected Molotov isn't any reason to think that she won't just be squashed very quickly in another fight. Number 6. Shaun of the Dead. In a rather surprising twist of fate, in Shaun of the Dead, the army turn up just as Shaun and Liz seem resigned to their deaths and save the day. It appears that crisis has been averted, and while lots of their friends and family have indeed died, at least those two will get to live happily ever after. And as an abridged bonus, it turns out that Shaun managed to wrangle the zombified Ed to his shed so they can carry on playing their video games together. Ah, isn't that nice? But wait. As sweet as an expression of their friendship as this is, Shaun literally almost gets bitten by his former friend, and it shows that there is very little of his friend left. Arguably, keeping him air quotes alive is cruel for everyone, but more than that, it's also incredibly dangerous. There is no way that Shaun will be able to keep vigilant at all times, particularly when deeply invested into a video game, to avoid being bitten. It's a very real prospect that Shaun will be bitten, and he may well be the cause of the next outbreak, just because he wasn't able to let go of the past. Number 5. Belle, Beauty and the Beast. Disney's Beauty and the Beast is a triumph of delightful animation, but more importantly, of love. Ah, isn't that sweet? Despite it actually being about a monstrous 11-year-old who gets transformed into a literal buffalo dog monster who makes his prisoner then fall in love with him, the ending is incredibly sweet, with Belle's true love for the beast shining through. In fact, their love saves all of the enchanted castle's victims, which is great, if you don't consider that their douchey lord is the reason that they were all trapped in that form in the first place. But you know what? They live happily ever after. Or do they? Another tale, which isn't quite as old as time, is the tale of the French Revolution. Now, that momentous period in European history saw the poor people of France rising up and overthrowing the rich, with the rather permanent solution of the guillotine as their means of rebellion. Now, presumably, the fact that Belle and the artist formerly known as Beast live in a huge, opulent castle would have meant that a couple of decades after this supposed happy ending, they likely had their happy little heads chopped off entirely. And don't think that Disney is exempt from real-world events, because after all, Belle shows up in Notre Dame as well in The Hunchback, so she is tied to a real timeline. Number 4. WALL-E's Human Friends. WALL-E. WALL-E isn't just a telling story about the inevitable result of humanity's callous destruction of our own planet, but it's also a triumphant call to arms that suggests it's never too late to start saving it, as well as potentially ourselves. It ends on a happy note as the charming little robot's discovery of new plant life confirms to the Axiom crew and its passengers that Earth is now habitable again and they can finally go home. Huzzah! The credits even then show them seemingly waking the planet's flora up again, which is just bloody lovely. But wait, what's that on the horizon? Oh, can it be? Oh, yes, it's a but wait. How is that possible? Well, frankly, it's not. One plant does not equal an ecosystem ready to support human life, and the crew of the Axiom are in no fit shape to actually repopulate and take care of the Earth. In fact, here's a little fun/depressing note for you. The animations in those credits that we were just talking about were added in because test audiences pointed out this very issue because they simply didn't believe it was possible, and this was just the studio trying to skirt around this. Oh dear. Number 3. Chris and Rod, Get Out. The end of Jordan Peele's wonderful Get Out comes with not one, but two major subversions. Firstly, Chris manages to do what the title demands of him, escaping the Armitage household. The second sees his expected arrest after Rose is shot by Walter twisted away when it turns out that it's not a police car coming to get him, but his friend Rod arriving to rescue him. They drive off and that's that, done and dusted. Oh, what's that behind you? Oh my god, it's a But wait! Even though the cop ending is subverted, that doesn't actually mean that good times are waiting ahead. After all, the local police will discover the murder scene, and in a bid to protect their secrets, the elusive club that was shown in the film will point fingers at Chris in order to tie up loose ends. Either this will result in a lengthy jail sentence, or considering the sway that this group has, it might end with both of our heroes dying mysterious deaths. Number 2. Nova, War for the Planet of the Apes. While our main hero, Caesar, dies at the end of the Planet of the Apes sequel, he sets up a bright future for them, and with the army and the nefarious Alpha Omega group all wiped out, it looks like good times abound. Hell, there's even a slight hope for humanity as well in the character of Nova, the mute girl who befriends Caesar and whose kindness leads to the death of Woody Harrelson's villainous colonel. She's alive and well, so rejoice, right? But listen up, you damn dirty apes. You need to slow down and just wait a minute. The apes and their friends might look after Nova for a time because of their relationship with Caesar, but they can't fight against nature, and the harsh reality is that a young girl left to fend for herself with creatures with no real experience for her specific needs, well, she's not going to last long. Even if they were kind to her, Nova is definitely not long for this earth, particularly when she's so open to disease and infection and so far removed from even the simplest of remedies. Sorry to say this, but this is probably all she wrote for the human race. And number 1, the Von Trapps, The Sound of Music. After the discovery of Austria being annexed by the Third Reich, the legendary Von Trapps vowed disobedience and planned to flee to Switzerland, using their appearance at the Salzburg Festival to make passage to safety. With the help of some nuns, they managed to pull off a daring plan right under the noses of the Nazis and set off with a song of freedom in their hearts. Thus, the hills are alive with the sound of music and wonder and happiness and all sorts of delights. But oh no, what's this? Well, it turns out that the hills are alive, but it's with the sound of impending doom, because the Von Trapps are walking not into the neutral, safe Switzerland, but Germany, and specifically the area of Germany that Hitler literally called home. In order to get to the Swiss border in the direction that they're headed, you would have to walk through literal hell itself in order to get there. Also, even if they weren't geographically challenged, the likelihood is that the Von Trapps would have died of exposure pretty quickly on their perilous trip across the peaks. I mean, they barely looked well equipped for a casual ramble, let alone an arduous mountaineering trip. So in short, they're done for. And there we go, those were 10 movie heroes you didn't realise probably died horrible deaths. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ over on Twitter. I hope you have a fantastic day, because remember, you are awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!